Hello, peoples. This is Dale back with the Schwee view. Had a couple days off. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. We had the plane crash out at our airport, and I happen to know several people with UPS, as well as a lot of people who live right close to the crash site. So I have spent quite a bit of time emotionally dealing with that situation. However, I am now back, and this is on Thursday evening, November 6th, 2 days after the voting going on Tuesday night. It's also still the shutdown, day number 37. We are now officially, illegally, the longest shutdown in the history of the country. Mr. Trump owns both of those, as we've talked about before. All right. I have so many things that need to be talked about. However, um, I don't even know where to begin, with the exception of this. Donald Trump is just mean. This isn't a question about politics. This is not a question about Republican or Democrat. This is not a question about anything other than just being mean. And the reason I say that is on Monday, after the judge had said, you must release the food stamps. Well, on Friday, he said, I'll do whatever the courts say I have to do. They ruled that on Monday you need to have a plan and that you will have to satisfy the SNAP requirements. Monday he came out and said he would. And then Tuesday, he was all for it still. Everything was fine. But Wednesday at about noon, he came out and said, I changed my mind. I'm not going to supply the SNAP benefits. The question's why. We all know why. It's political reasons. He wants to hold the country hostage until he gets what he wants. And he has basically said that. No, it's not basically, straight up said. The government will be shut down until I get what I want. That's not being a president. And I'll say this again versus what I've said before. He proclaims himself to be a tremendous negotiator, a negotiator that can solve all problems. All the wars he's settled this year, whether they had a war or not, is irrelevant to the point he claims he settled the war. He has doled out billions of dollars to Argentina to save their economy because he's that nice person. He's a person who says he needs the Nobel Peace Prize. But yet, with his own people, he said, we're not going to have affordable health care. But without having a plan to replace our current affordable health care, basically what he's saying is we're not going to have health care. Simple. But now today, Thursday, the 6th, he announced that he made a deal to reduce the cost of weight reduction medicine. And in his presentation of it, he said, because people who have lost their weight, and this is paraphrasing, people who lose the weight and they're at a healthy weight, they're better for the economy. They work better, they go to work. Okay, that is all correct. But if we have health care insurance to keep us healthy, then it's better for the economy. All right, well, we're not going to have it. Somebody I read someplace, and I think it was the perfect solution. All we have to do is change the name from Obamacare to Trump Care, and he'll be okay with it. As long as it's got his name on it, he'll proceed with it. He keeps saying he has concepts of a plan. He has a plan. He will have a plan, but yet he hasn't created a single sentence toward that plan. Can the Affordable Health Care Act be better? Yes, it can. But until we have something better, I personally think we need to stay with this until we can work it better. Now let's talk about the food stamps, the SNAP program. Okay. That's the issue that's really at hand now because I got to back up. Like I spoke before, the budget shutdown they're asking for a continued resolution. Like I said before, the current plan is not a continued resolution because they're reducing something. They're taking something away from what we've had. So it's not a continued resolution. Today they spoke on Fox News that the Democrats are holding it up because, well, they've already voted on this years ago. They've continued with this continuing resolution several times. No, that is not correct. That is what they currently have on the table is not what has been voted on previously. The Democrats didn't vote on it in the previous, neither did the Republicans, because this resolution is taking something away. The only thing the Democrats are asking to be changed on the resolution is simply put the healthcare subsidies back in. I'm sorry, that makes it a continued resolution, and they'll vote on it. That's being taken away from estimated 42 million low-income families, as well as what's not taken into consideration on that, on the healthcare subsidies, is small businesses. The small business people can get insurance through the Affordable Health Care Act. So you're not only eliminating the low-income people, you're eliminating the small business individuals who can no longer now be able to have health care for themselves, let alone any small number of employees they have. So it's not as simple as everybody's putting it out there to be. It's also, as I addressed, it's not just about the illegal immigrants. The illegal immigrants that may or may not be receiving health care benefits are such a minuscule number that I'll say it again. If you're doing it for that reason, you're cutting off 42 million Americans, elderly, children, and in between. You're cutting them off for the minuscule number of illegal immigrants that may be getting insurance. You're just mean too. That's just cutting your nose off to spite your face. You're just doing things as a knee-jerk reaction because that's what somebody else says you should do. And it's just wrong. Morally, ethically, simplistically, I don't care how you look at it, it's wrong. All right, enough of that one, because now let's go to the food stamps, which go hand in hand with that. SNAP program. President Trump, Mr. Trump, as president and running for president, is always talking about the economy and how he's going to boost the economy. Let's talk about the effect that withholding the food stamps or the SNAP program from families with need. First, it's a holiday season. Is there any right time to starve your own country just to get your point across? No. But coming up on Thanksgiving, going into Christmas, New Year's, as well as Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, so many other holidays that go along with their Hanukkah. Yeah, I said Hanukkah. Anyway, look, people take those SNAP food stamps, they go to your local grocery store, they spend that money. It's not really money, but it is money. That grocery store takes that, fills out a sheet, and it gets sent into the government. The government then sends them actual money. That money that store uses to buy more food, to restock their shelves, but more so, it uses that money to pay employees to help stock the store. See, so the SNAP program that's been going on since 1966, 1964 has turned into a very vital part of our economic system. We now use that money as if it's really money. So the people who are now also being withheld from, so their house is suffering. Well, guess what? It's not only their house. Other families are suffering because the grocery stores are going to have to cut back their staffing. The suppliers will lose money, and therefore they have to cut back their staffing because people aren't going to be buying as many groceries. So they won't get shipped from the warehouse, and therefore the supplier to the warehouse. It's a chain reaction backward. We talk about trickle down economics. Well, this is trickle up disaster economics. We have to stop looking at the one little speck on the wall and see the whole forest. The old adage, you can't see the forest for the trees. Well, this is what we're doing right now. We're looking at a tree instead of the whole forest. And if we continue to do this and we wipe this forest out, then what do we have? We have a disastrous economy going into holidays in which we fall into a recession that could very easily end up into a depression, especially if the courts rule that Mr. Trump's decision to push these tariffs without getting it okayed couldn't do anything the simple right way. He had to do it the Trump way. If it gets ruled that those are illegal and we have to give all the money back that he boasts that he has made off that, well, guess what? Then we're really in a big disaster. But that also, back it up, it goes off another fork in the road. If he says we can't afford the SNAP benefits, what have you done with all the money that Dodge cut? What have you done with all the money that you boast about that's coming from the tariffs? What have you done with all that? Yes, our Treasury system has the funds to pay the SNAP programs. Every other shutdown we've ever had, SNAP has never been on the table. This only came about out of meanness, out of I want to hurt you, which with that, I'm going to go into this one. Why is he different on this 4-year stint or 10 months, 9 months? This turn around, he's different than he was the first 4 years. He had great ideas the first 4 years. He just had poor people skills. He was firing people left and right. This time he's not firing people left and right, but he's like a bull in a china store. He had great ideas. This time he doesn't have ideas, and he doesn't have good actions either. I say he's changed, and this is where he's changed. I used to defend him. I can't defend him now, but I have to wonder why. I propose that he knows his 2020 election wasn't stolen from him. He knows he lost fair and square. So he wins back in 2024. Now he wants to punish the American people as a whole for them not voting for him in 2020. That's what this is about. He wants to punish the country because he lost. He couldn't just say, oops, let me come in and do a better job. He's coming in now and he's going to punish people. Let's look at his behavior after the elections on Tuesday. I've watched Fox News and I do get an entertainment out of it. You got Jersey, Virginia. They had Democrats that won their races, and they won by a huge landslide. And everybody's like, "Wow, that's a huge number. That's sending a message to the Trump administration." Well, the individuals on Fox News said, "Well, it's no big deal. They were blue states. They were supposed to win." All right, that's the case. And if that's the case, we're fine with that. Except if that really is the case, then let it go. Don't harp on things such as, well, now we have to pick apart how the Democratic Party is so wrong and they shouldn't have got elected. They got elected because they were blue states. You said that. Hold to it. I know the AG in Virginia, years back, he made some very hostile texts to somebody. You could call them possibly criminal threats. I wouldn't have argued if charges would have brought under terroristic threatening. But they weren't. But they were made public. And here's the thing. The Fox News commentators are going after the voters that voted him in because he won the AG, Attorney General's position in Virginia. And they're going after the voters and specifically saying, what kind of people would vote for that person? What kind of person? That's horrible. No, that's not the question you should be asking. The question you should be asking is, why that a person who had that behavioral practice in their history, which first, hey, I'm going to give it, everybody can have a bad day and oops. The threats were made, but no criminal he didn't actually hurt anybody. Everybody can say some bad things from time to time and they don't mean them. That's the bad thing about a word that comes out your mouth. You can't ever take it back. Even if you don't mean it, it's there. All right, but let's get past that. You shouldn't be asking what type of voters are, what type of people the voters are that would actually vote somebody in like that. You should be asking, what is going on with the Republican Party that the people are willing to vote somebody in who's like that? Your party and your people are actually, they must be worse. It's not a question of the voters. It's a question about the candidates. If this candidate was so bad and yet he won, then you have to look at your own candidates. on why people chose such a bad one over yours. Yours is obviously worse. So, um, yeah, that's just my thoughts on this. There's nothing else. They voted him in because he was better than the one who's already there. Now, the next one. It's they're blue states. They're blue states, and nothing. There's no big issue. Well, you did have Republicans running on the ticket, so there was a big issue. Okay, you say, well, I heard one of them, a couple of them actually said, well, I guess the Republicans just didn't come out to vote. The problem with that argument, which I can't say if you're right or wrong, but I can look at the numbers, and in every single spot, they said they were record numbers of voters coming out to vote. So if there was a record number of voters, and you're saying, well, that was all the Democrats because the Republicans didn't come out to vote, then that means on previous times, the Democrats didn't come out. So you can't have it both ways. Accept the fact that you lost and don't blame the voters. Look at your own party and say, what can we do better? It's really that simple. And I'll close with this one on that very subject. The New York mayor. I told you I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I simply go for what's best for the country. And I will tell you, I'm not for that mayor. The promises he presented during his campaign, let's be honest, cannot happen. It'd be great to have free bus rides. It's not realistic. We live in a capitalist society. He calls himself a democratic socialist. And I know the Republican Party says can't have socialism. Socialism is so wrong. It says the Democrats are liberals because they want all these social concepts. They want the people to live off the government. That we need to actually not be having any ties to socialism. Well, look, Mamdini is not going to be successful in New York because you cannot. He came out today, said he wants, I'm going to have to paraphrase, government ran grocery stores, food outlets. No, this is a capitalist society. We cannot have government owning and running any of the businesses. Can't do it. That's no. However, I will say this is not a true capitalist society. And I have a book out. You can order it off Amazon. My Thoughts by S.D. Owens, in which I talk about this. Look, the United States came about capitalist society. You worked your ass off or you died. You worked your ass off to have whatever you do have or you died. Or you ended up having parents that worked their ass off and got a big clump of money. And then you could live and start building off that. But if you didn't do it right, you ended up dying anyway because you squandered all your family wealth. However, things changed coming into the 1900s. We started, factories were definitely still a capitalist society. Inventions gotten better and production was what it was, and it was capitalist society, low wages, factory owner keeping all the money. The unions came about, kind of made it better. My son and I, we argue over this a lot. Unions were needed. Unions still are needed, but they have gotten to the point where sometimes they're as bad as the owners. They're hurting people. But that's not my point. We are a capitalist society that's blended with socialism. Oh, people get upset over that. But our country is so great and so strong because of our unique blending of socialism and capitalism. If you want to give a perfect example of capitalism, is our road system, our expressways. It's all socialism. The government paid for it. We paid the government back in taxes. Without that interstate system and then developing the offshoot roads to be even better than they were at the time before the interstate system was put in, we would never have had the economy boom the way it boomed. We would never have been able to keep the economy continuing to grow and boom. And even today, our government pays for the repairs of and upkeep of all the road system. The government does it through our taxes. Explain to me how that's not socialist. If this was a true capitalist society, we'd have toll booths at every single corner. You'd have to pay a toll to get into your neighborhood because that toll has to be what takes care of the roads and the sidewalks that are in that neighborhood. Hey, that's the way the system works, and it works best. Now we're trying to branch in to doing something else that is going to be, it hasn't had the time, but the numbers are starting to show. Our affordable health care system, yes, it is on the edge of socialists, but it works. It will work. We need a plan. Can it be better than it is? Yes. But then our road system needed a plan, and it got better than it was. Well, now it needs to be replaced. So tonight's been a long show, one of my longest. I'm going to bring it to a close now, and I will see everybody tomorrow night, Friday night. And if you don't watch it on Friday night, that's fine. You can pick it up at any time. All I ask is hit the subscribe button, like me, follow me, however you want to do it. Let's do this. And tonight's another night for the Schwee View. I'll see you guys next show.